Welcome to the Gynarchy Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Kirti Patel. Here we place women's health and feminism front and center where they belong, engaging in conversations that range from the fundamental to the fearless. With insights from expert guests, we aim to break through the barriers of the patriarchy and envision a new world led by the Gynarchy. So let's get started and dive right in. Welcome to the Gynarchy Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Kirti Patel, and today we are talking about gut health. And my guest today is Dr. Kaveh Hoda. Dr. Hoda is a practicing gastroenterologist and host of the very popular medical podcast, House of Pod. With a fervor for science communication and skepticism, Dr. Hoda has the ability to demystify complex medical topics and present them in an entertaining manner, which has made House of Pod a favorite among listeners and why it is consistently ranked in the top 75 science podcasts. Whether addressing medical myths, discussing healthcare policies, or engaging with experts across various fields, Dr. Hoda's blend of expertise and humor ensures each episode is both informative and enjoyable. Wow, welcome, Kaveh.
That was the nicest introduction I think I've ever gotten. I'm going to let you down so hard, and I feel so bad about that.
No, of course you're not. I am so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm just, thrilled. You're a bit of a medical celebrity, so I don't know. I think
that's how low the bar is, huh? I reached that bar, boy. Woo, we have trouble.
I'm feeling so honored you're on my little old podcast.
You know what? Honestly, I can't tell if that's sarcasm, but I'm going to take it because I need it. So thank you so much.
Totally serious, earnest.
Oh boy. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Kaveh, I'm very structured. Unlike your fun podcast, I'm very structured. And I always start with asking guests, to tell us a little bit about themselves and how they came to be doing what they're doing. Like, how did you choose gastroenterology? And then how did you come to work on House of Pod?
So, I think you probably will appreciate this because of your field. But I felt when I was in medical training that there weren't that many gigs I could get into that would have a mix of cerebral activity. You could think about stuff. You could feel smart when you want to feel smart. And you could do procedural stuff, hands-on sort of things. You could do a little bit of both. And I didn't feel like there was a ton of options. I think your job is one of them. And I thought gastroenterology was the other. And that one scared me less. So I went into gastroenterology. Also, I was good at video games. So it kind of felt like a natural flow for me. So that's how I got into the world of GI. And the podcasting, that kind of started earlier when I was in medical school. I was at Davis, and there's a popular local college radio station there. And someone had asked me to come on and do a medical show, a call-in medical show. And I got to do that for a little bit, and I really just fell in love with that. That was really fun. I got the bug. So I always wanted to do the podcast. I always wanted to get back to it. And then, I finally got to a place in my career where I was like, okay, I have the basics down. I feel like I can do this job. Let me try to add something else to the mix. And the podcasting really came in. And of course, this was right before COVID. So medical misinformation became a major factor, still is obviously. And that was then the new goal for me. That was a new drive for me, was to try and find ways to battle that in a fun way. And that kind of just wanted people to hear how doctors talk. We code switch a lot in medicine. And the way we talk to our patients isn't always the way we talk to our friends. And that's probably good for most people, because they may speak to their friends in a way that's not respectful for a patient. But I did want patients to hear doctors as real people, as they're not something behind it. There's not this magical aura to them. They're regular, normal human people who think in care and fear like they do. And I thought doing that might make the whole medical process a little bit less scary for people. I thought it might demystify it, might pull back the curtain a little bit on the world of medicine. So that's why I did it. And then also it's fun. You get to meet people and I get to go on podcasts and I don't have to leave my house anymore. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of what you said there. Yeah, definitely. I chose my field because of the variety of things that I can do. And I also got started with podcasting because I got invited on a podcast. And then we share this mission of trying to put out, vetted, scientifically accurate information in a world of misinformation. So all of
Which
that
is why
very
it's
relatable.
so hard for us, right? Because you're probably like me, like you like overthink every possible like thing you say on a podcast, and you like constantly like, oh my, is that episode good enough? Because did we cover all the factors we need to cover? Whereas like the people on the other side of this medical misinformation, podcast war just don't care. Yeah, we'll just say whatever at any point, and they're so much more unfiltered, and they can produce so much more content than we ever can because of that.
This is so funny that you're saying this to me because just this week I met somebody who will not be named. Okay.
Joe
And
Rogan.
I was just, no, I met someone who was starting a podcast. She actually said that listening to me inspired her to start a podcast.
Oh,
And that's good. But I just realized that I have a lot of that imposter syndrome because, I'll question my podcast or if I have any, if I'm qualified enough to say do a podcast or speak on things.
Yeah.
And this woman shared with me that she learned about AI in the past year and felt that it was really hot. So she decided to start a podcast on it. And we were kind of talking about how often we record episodes. And I said, yeah, maybe like once a week or one couple a month or something like that. And she told me she recorded 10 episodes a day.
Oh
And I thought, wow, yes, I think other people have a lot of confidence. It actually made me just think like, okay, well, I was questioning like whether I'm qualified I know I'm qualified to speak on women's health, just practicing for 25 years. But I was questioning whether I can have opinions on feminism because I didn't take women's studies and things like that. But I'm like, wait a minute, I worked with taken care of thousands of women.
Yeah.
I have my own lived experience. And I'm like, why can't I have an opinion? Of course I can, Yeah. And so, yes, anybody can get a microphone and have a podcast. But I do think your background does matter.
Yeah. And that's what makes you a good doctor and a good podcaster is that you should have a little imposter syndrome. And also it's good to recognize that what we do is kind of silly. We talk into a mic and then we expect people to want to listen to us. It's sort of a weird thing that we do and to have some humor about it. But having a little bit of humility about that, I think is really, really good. And that's a healthy thing. That makes me more likely to listen. You know what I mean? When someone has nuance to it and they're able to say what they do and don't know or what they don't feel totally comfortable with. I think that's really important. And that's hard because that's not always good radio.
Yes, I think that, we're all actively, learning throughout life. And so I also just accept that I'm going to mess up and I can always admit that, you have to be able to say you were wrong or your opinion has changed with more information. So I feel like that's really important. I think some people just kind of dig in their heels if they said something and that's a mistake.
Yeah, agreed.
So thank you so much for that background. I wanted to have you on for quite a few reasons. One thing was actually we follow each other on the socials and I noticed that you went viral for all things. Of all things, you went viral for talking about fiber.
Yeah.
Not the sexiest subject. So I thought that was kind of funny. And I hadn't talked about gut health yet. And I'm like, let me, and I guess people were calling you fiber zaddy.
Yeah, that's new for me. I had to look it up. I'm okay with that. I am okay. I've been called so much worse than fiber zaddy, so I will accept fiber zaddy over
Love it.
a lot of the other options. Yes.
Yes. And, you said something like fiber is that girl that you think protein is. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Because we should.
Protein is just
protein's the it girl right now. Yeah, I don't know if I'm using any of these terms correctly, by the way. So
I think you are. I think you are. That's why you had the little viral moment.
Yeah, the thing is, and I think this is a good thing to talk about because it does tie in also probably to something else you want to talk about, which is RFK Jr. and the new dietary guidelines.
You got it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's focused on protein right now, which to me, protein's great. I got nothing against protein. It's good. But Americans generally are getting enough of it. 1 to 1.2 gram per kilogram per day, which is they're
1
pretty much getting
to 1.2 grams per kilogram
per day.
Per day.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how to calculate.
Which is what they're getting in general now. And now, which is enough. The new guidelines are recommending that be higher. And there's really no good evidence to prove that we need more protein in our diet. Gym bros, these guys like RFK Jr. are really into the whole protein thing, and they pushed it hard. There is, maybe some soft evidence, in my opinion, that it can help with weight loss. But in general, that's not the issue to me. I don't think that's that important. I think we are doing okay with that. I think the thing that has been around forever is not a fad and is not totally sexy, but is incredibly important for many reasons, is fiber. And I am a little worried about fiber becoming, when I posted this one TikTok and it went pretty viral where I'm sitting there and I'm looking tired and I say, fiber.
Yes.
Get more of it. And that's all I say, literally. And this went like crazy viral.
How many likes does it have now? Something crazy.
Last I looked, it was over 300,000, which is for me. For other people, it's probably not a big deal, but for me, that was a big one. And it's funny too. By the way, I've had one thing go viral before. This is an aside. I'm going off on a tangent, and I apologize.
No worries.
I had one other thing on Twitter back when I was on Twitter go viral. It was this really dumb picture I took. I put a Halloween skeleton and I put it on a Peloton machine. And I said, you've heard of Elf on a Shelf, and then like ... or something. And then that went viral too. And so I've had this happen to me now twice.
I remember that. Okay. I know that. I've seen that. A lot of people have. Both
times I got emails from people and they were like, hey, how did you make a viral post? How did you do that? Or messages. And I'm like, first of all, I'm such the wrong guy to ask, because that's like, I've done it twice in my life, and that's about it. And I thought to myself, I thought about it and I realized, okay, here's the strategy if you want to go viral. I'm going to share this. This is an exclusive
Secret.
For your listeners.
Right.
Think of the dumbest thing you can think of. Write it out.
Yes.
Walk away from it for 10 seconds. Come back and make it 20% dumber, and then post it. And that is my strategy.
That is truth. Okay. Because I have to say, one of my frustrations, and I've said this to friends, I'm like, sometimes I put these good posts out, nobody cares. And then like the thing you least expect that you don't really want to be famous for.
Yeah.
Is what everybody likes. I mean, Don't get me started. I don't know if I went a little viral, like attacking Andrew Tate now,
Oh, I missed that. I would love to see that.
And oh no, I shouldn't have even brought it up, because see, I just have finally gotten over
I'm trying to find it. I'm looking online right now. I really want to see what you said.
Oh boy. No, but I feel you there. I hear what you're saying.
So, okay. So anyways, getting back to fiber. So yes. I am a little worried because that did go viral and people were like, yes, thank you for saying it. Fiber is important. I'm like, great.
You're
I'm
fiber zaddy now.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that.
Okay,
good. And I'm super happy as a gastroenterologist because, fiber I do think is incredibly important. And it's something that's really missing in our American diets. I know this because I've seen the inside of a lot of American colons. A lot. Too many. too many, most likely, colons that I've seen. I can tell you that we are lacking in it. So I was excited. But I am a little worried that people are going to maybe take it too far. Like people start to get a little too excited about it. I'm like, please don't make fiber a fad that comes and goes. Let's just be reasonable about fiber, understand it, know its limitations, know how it helps, and then just incorporate it into our lives a little bit better. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I saw that post where you were concerned about, fiber, people going crazy for fiber, like they go crazy for protein. But, unfortunately, like it's fun to go crazy on protein, right? And like RFK wants us to end this war on saturated fats. Like that's fun, but it's not fun I try to have fiber like once or twice a day, and like it's hard. It's hard to get excited about. I have the psyllium husk in the water, and it has helped me actually. I just want to put out there that I really believe it helped lower my cholesterol. I'm in that South Asian demographic that can have, borderline or high cholesterol, even if they're a normal BMI, so.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. I'm so glad that you're able to find a way to make it work for you. It is hard. It's not that easy to do. It is, and especially with the way foods are made and with ultra processed foods, it's difficult to obtain that. And I will say, giving RFK Jr. a little bit of credit, that's something in his new dietary guidelines that I do agree with, is that
he did include that more fiber.
Well, no, but he says like ultra processed food is bad.
Okay, right.
Actually,
true.
What's funny is he doesn't actually call it ultra processed in it. They call it highly processed, which is an interesting choice because it seems like subtle, right?
Yeah. But what is the difference?
I think the reason they did this is because highly processed doesn't really have a strict definition yet. I mean, like, I agree that like ultra processed food is low in fiber. It messes with our satiety. It's bad for anything metabolic, really. And then if by something that's highly processed, that could mean one of those ultra processed foods, or it could also include like your almond milk latte. It's really vague, and I think it's left that way on purpose so they don't get pushback from certain companies or food companies out there. I'm being a little cynical in that regard, but I feel I am deserved a little bit of cynicism at this point, given what
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense because I was wondering about that. I'm like, some of the things he says seems to push against, it's a little, against like, say, people backing this administration. So
right.
I don't know. So I get confused by that.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in it's even contradictory these new guidelines within themselves. He talks about we're ending the war on saturated fats, but then in the guidelines it's still only supposed to be 10% of your dietary guidelines. So where are they?
I mean, I guess
that from?
Right. I mean, I think it makes big milk probably happy, right? I don't know. And then, there probably is some very thoughtful, wording there. I didn't pick up on that. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a chance, it's only 10 pages, by the way, which is like, they're usually like over 100. Like the last one that came out was like 160 pages. And this one's only 10 pages. So it is readable, but it is sort of a mess. You get the sense from looking at it that there's a lot of different authors who went into this, and there's no cohesive theme, and it was kind of rushed, and it's sort of a weird
like
Frankenstein sort of thing.
Everything they're doing. So what do you think about the new pyramid, which is just like upside down and has a lot of meat at the top?
Yeah, I mean the same thing, right? I mean, I will again, I agree. They put an emphasis on quote unquote real foods and whole foods, but I mean that we've been talking about that for a long time. People will support that for a long time. There's a little bit of a de-emphasis on fiber, which I don't love, and I think the MyPlate thing, from everything I heard from nutritionists, that seems to have worked pretty well in the past. Which is
I love the MyPlate.
Did you? Because I don't know if a lot of listeners know about it. I mean, I never used it myself. I just knew of it. But I'm sure you probably know better than I, but they moved away from the food pyramid and they kind of moved to the MyPlate to help people make better decisions about what they eat. And now they moved back to the pyramid, but flipped it upside down because everything else is upside down now. Why not also the food pyramid?
True.
And I agree, eating less processed food, eating more real food is good too. But we have saturated fats, this whole push for saturated fats. I mean, this is not like big fiber conspiracy to put down, saturated fats. We know they're associated with LDL. We know LDL actually causes atherosclerotic plaques. So this is well-proven science and well-proven data that we have that saturated fats are not ideal. Now, do I freak out if patients have a little saturated fat? No. I mean, I'm going to have some later tonight. I'm going to have some saturated fat because I'm a bad boy. I'm the bad boy of medicine. I'm going to have some saturated fat. And so I can do that. I can do that, and it's okay. But let's not pretend it's a health food. Let's not pretend it's a body hack to use beef tallow. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. My personal philosophy is that like you shouldn't be too restrictive, and like try to actually, I feel like it's more like focus on getting all the positives in your diet, and then, treat yourself, Yeah. And I know MyPlate has some critiques. Okay.
Yeah.
But I liked it and recommended it to patients because it's just easy. It's just easy. Like I never liked the pyramid. At least with MyPlate, you could just focus on a meal 3 times a day, whenever you eat. And it's just easy to look at your plate and balance it. I don't know. I thought Michelle Obama gave us lots of good advice with the move, can't get moving campaign. Yeah. Is that what it is? And then the MyPlate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then she was attacked viciously for it in the most ridiculous way. Yeah. I mean, these guidelines have to be taken a little seriously. Like, no doctors really look at them routinely or care for the guidelines. I mean, most people don't know what they had in them before or what they have now, but they can have serious impact on things. They can affect the way school lunches are made and what goes into school lunches, for example. It can affect WIC and SNAP. And, if you're on military base, it's going to affect it too. So it's not totally inconsequential. And then later, more guidelines will come down and they'll use these guidelines as like a starting point, and they'll reference it as a scientific piece of work. So it is something that we actually have to kind of take seriously and consider. And I think we'll unfortunately see this loosening of saturated fats, or the war, now that the war on saturated fats is over, we'll see, I think, in the long term, some worse outcomes for it.
So I have a question for you, which occurred to me earlier when you were talking about looking at colons. Like you can tell from looking at people's colons how much fiber they've had. Like what do you see when
the most obvious thing is diverticula. So for your listeners who don't know, as you get older, you can have these little pouches form in your colon. And there's different reasons you can get that. Part of it is genetic, and people from different ethnic backgrounds can have a little higher risk of having diverticula on the right side of their colon than the left. But there's certainly some genetic predisposition to having these things. But one of the key things we see here in the States is low fiber diets. They're causing increasing pressure in the left side of the colon, in the sigmoid colon, where the radius is smaller. It's a physics law called Laplace's law that helps. I won't go into too much detail. I think it might bore your listeners. But the long and the short of it is the pressure has to remain the same throughout the whole colon. And because of that, the tension on the wall there in the sigmoid colon, the left side of your colon, is at its highest. And it causes these little pouches to form in the colon through weak spots in the mucosa there.
Wow.
And so those little pouches that form, for most people, it doesn't cause them any problems, but 2 really significant things can happen. One, you can have them bleed, so diverticular bleeding, or they can get infected and you get diverticulitis. So again, for the listeners out there, because no one ever teaches you guys this, and you should know it if you have diverticula, it's only diverticulitis if it becomes infected. Now that can be really painful, and you might need antibiotics for it. You might even in some situations need surgery for it. So diverticula, these pouches, a big part of why they form, like I said, is genetic, but a major part is because there's low fiber in our diets. And because of that, the colon is working so hard to move things through, and there's so much pressure in there. And the tension on that wall is so high that it
Wow.
causes these little diverticula. So that's where fiber really structurally, I'm not even talking about like cholesterol potential benefits or other aspects of it. I mean, just physically, there is a change that can happen in your colon if you do not have a high fiber diet, and that can cause real problems.
That is so cool. I mean, I know what diverticulosis is, diverticulitis. I have never heard of what causes it. Just so thank you. Learn something new. And that is fascinating. It makes so much
not
sense
just a
that
pretty
it's
face.
the pressure.
See, I know things. Yeah, I know
thank
things.
you. Yeah, I need to, thank you. That's really interesting. And what was that? Laplace's law? What did you say?
Laplace's law. It's a physics
How do you spell that?
principle. I think it's L.A. place, like Laplace's.
Oh, okay. I'm going to look that up.
No, we're going to do it right now. I got to make sure I want to get the right information.
Medically accurate
Laplace's
information.
Yeah, Laplace's law.
Fine. Okay, very cool. Love it. Yeah. So, okay, and that's really interesting that you can absolutely tell.
Yeah.
So, let's go back and just start with the basics. Like how do you define a healthy gut?
That's hard. I don't know if there is a proper definition for that. I mean, there's certainly not even agreed upon definitions for what is like the right microbiome in the gut. So I think it's not a one size fits all sort of thing. But a healthy gut, in my opinion, has a rich diversity of gut bacteria. I think that is really the key, that there's a lot of them and you have that diversity there. And we know this is important because we know that when someone becomes septic, for example, and they get sick in the ICU, for any reason, if they go to the ICU, just being in the ICU, what they've seen with tests is that the number of different species in the gut goes down dramatically just within days. And what happens is you are then predisposed to infection in the gut, but also because of this dysbiosis that's happening in the intestines, it predisposes you to worse sepsis. It drives sepsis further, no matter what brought the sepsis on. So in my opinion, and you're going to find gastroenterologists who have maybe a different opinion on this, what makes a healthy gut is one that is rich in diversity, not just overall number of the bacteria. But the different types. Species of bacteria. Yeah.
And that is the microbiome, right?
That is the gut microbiome. So maybe I'll take a little step back here. So for your listeners, the body is filled with and covered by and even surrounded by bacteria. And bacteria has gotten kind of a bad rap overall because there's some very scary ones out there that kill us. But there are a lot in our gut that are really helpful. And they help our gut do things like digest food, break down food products, ferment food, and they have healthy effects on the enterocytes or the cells that line our intestines. So they're doing a ton of good work for us. They're helping our immune system. There's more and more data every year about what the gut microbiome can potentially be doing. So that's my rough definition of what makes healthy gut.
So you mentioned that when patients are in the ICU, they lose that diversity in the microbiome. Is that because they're getting antibiotics or even without that?
It's not entirely clear, but that's definitely a big part of it. It's the sickness, it's not eating, it's not having any enteral feeding, it's the other medications, but antibiotics are certainly a big part of that. Yeah.
Okay. And what did you say about that? It wasn't leaky gut. It was, what did you call it? Oh, dysbiosis, gut dysbiosis. So that's the imbalance or, and not enough variety of bacteria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And that predisposes you to sepsis, which is a whole full body infection. Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. So I guess my next question is, how can you improve your gut microbiome? I think that, we've heard certain diets could be helpful. What about probiotics? What would you say people should focus on?
This is gonna be really boring, but I do think a well-balanced diet is the way to do it. That's the way to start. Some people will need more, and that's going to be okay. I think at some point, all of us could benefit from some additional help. But starting with a balanced diet that includes fruits, vegetables, legumes, a lot of plant-based options that feed the good bacteria that we want in there, that, or even, fermented foods that like kimchi, sauerkraut, these miso, these are things that are going to be good, or torshi if you're Iranian. And these are all things that are going to help along with your gut, and they're going to help feed the right bacteria. This is okay. So I'll tell you what I tell my kids, actually. This is something I haven't shared, but this is what I tell my kids when I try to get them to eat something other than ramen. Okay. It's like when they're building Legos and they have like one piece they really like, and it's a good piece, and you could build a lot of things with that one blue brick. But if you want to start building really advanced stuff, really interesting stuff, you have to get different pieces. You have to get different colored pieces. You have to get different size, shape pieces. And that's what I want them to do with their diet too. I want them to have a diversity of foods that bring in a diversity of nutrients to their body. And that's my approach also with patients too, having a well-balanced diet. My two favorite diets, no one asked, but I'm going to say my two favorite diets are either the Mediterranean diet or some variation of a plant-based diet. Plant-based diet it works out well. I think it's hard for people. It wouldn't work for me. I enjoy meat too much. But what I would say, even for those people, is with these diets, it's not so much important to me that they never eat meat and they never have saturated fats. That's not important to me. What's important to me is that the proportion of what they're eating, what's on their plate, is different. Like if you think about what is a stereotypical American meal, you think about what food?
Like meat and potatoes.
Yeah. Like a hamburger, right? Which is like, it has like a big bun, big piece of meat, some cheese, a little bit of lettuce, maybe an onion if you're advanced, and then like another bun, and then fries. And I'm not even necessarily opposed to all those things going into the human body. It's just the percentage of them. The base of the meal should be the lettuce, the tomato, the onion, that stuff. And then I think you can use things like the meat on top of it to ornament it, to give it flavor, to make it more palatable. And we just have to sort of turn that upside down. Unfortunately, the new inverted food pyramid does not do that. So even though it does turn it upside down, it still doesn't do the trick. So that's how I think you get the healthiest gut microbiome. Now, on top of that, you mentioned probiotics. And I will preface this by saying I am a fan of probiotics. And so I'm a little biased in that. I use them sometimes with my patients.
To know.
Yeah.
All right.
But I have to
mixed studies, right?
That's what I was going to say is I have to also acknowledge that the studies are very mixed. I don't think the door is closed on it just yet. I find good results with my patients, with certain patients. Not every patient needs it, but certain patients, particularly people who might have an imbalance or have irritable bowel syndrome, when it's used in combination with other factors, I find that it helps. So I still will use probiotics with patients, but I also acknowledge that, the data isn't totally clear about what they're doing or if they're really helping and how long they last.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So I tend to tell patients with regards to over-the-counter things like that, which aren't necessarily firm, solid, proven, like try it, try it if it's safe, make sure the company's reputable, and put like an end limit on it, and for a defined period of time, see if you notice a difference. Because I hate to see people taking stuff and wasting their money if they don't really know if it's working.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the risk is pretty low.
Yeah.
There was only one ever study I saw that suggested there could be a downside to probiotics. It was a small study that suggested that it caused brain fogginess in some people. But I've seen the opposite, anecdotally, at least in my patients. I have not seen that effect, and I haven't seen that reproduced. So yeah, really, other than your pocketbook, I don't think it causes a lot of damage.
So now there's all these, obviously there's a whole bunch of people out on social media talking about, giving health tips. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this episode, of course, that are, questionably qualified. And I mean, what is some advice generous. That, and sometimes like they'll say something that's accurate. So then, I think that gives them some clout, and then you then end up, people then end up thinking, well, that was accurate. So maybe everything they say is accurate. So I guess I wanted to know what you find, like the kinds of things they say that drive you crazy.
Oh,
you wish would stop.
So
you could just do a handful related to, or whatever, something related to gut health, obviously.
I could literally conservatively speak about this for maybe 15 hours. So I will keep it really short. The things I really encourage people to look out for are the buzzy scam words that you really need to question. I'm not even talking about whether they're trying to sell you something. I mean, that's obviously, if they're trying to sell you a product, make you afraid of a product to then offer a cure for it, then you should be super duper skeptical. I mean, when I decide to totally sell out, I'll make my own probiotic.
I was about to ask, I'm like, is there a House of Pod probiotic? Where's it going?
Eventually, when I'm totally ready for that, I'm selling my soul bits at a time, little bits and pieces at a time. So, when you hear certain phrases, and the major one for me to look out for is when they talk about detoxing anything. When they talk about that this is going to detox whatever from you, or this was in your colon, and now look how much of this came out. This is 3 weeks of accumulated stuff in your colon, and you had to take it out because it was causing toxins to go to your blood. Your body will take care of that. Your liver is fantastic at doing this, and your kidneys are great. So unless you have a problem with one of those two organs, which sometimes people do, and it's very common, unfortunately, you're going to be okay. But here's the thing. If you do have a problem with your liver, if you do have a problem with your kidneys, some over-the-counter detox is not going to do the trick. You're going to need something a lot more advanced, a lot more complicated, and you're going to need specialist doctors who do that one thing and only that one thing. So,
so we shouldn't go out there and do coffee enemas, you're saying?
With the coffee enemas, oh my God. I have gotten every once a week, for the last 5 years, I have gotten some sort of post or been tagged in something with someone doing a coffee enema. It's amazing to me that this one still sticks around.
Where did it all start? Was that a Gwyneth Paltrow thing? I don't know.
No, it was done before that. It's funny. I did look into this a long time ago. I'll need to do a whole episode on it for my show.
Yes.
I'll bring you on if you want. You can help me talk about that one. But I forget. There was some sort of health guy who pushed it. I can't remember if it was Kellogg or some other weird health.
Oh, it started that far back?
It's been around for a while. It comes and goes. It's one of these, all of these grifts come and go. And they go away for a little while, and then they come back. They get repackaged a little bit, and then they come back. And the reason for doing it's always a moving target. Anyways, so yeah, it's your listeners. Not that I think your listeners would do a coffee enema, but don't do a coffee enema. Just as my friend Ryan Marino says, coffee is your friend. It is not an enema. And that is something, if I do have merch, it's going to be that.
That's
someday.
A good one. I love that. So you got to make that, embroider it and get it in your office.
It's not a bad idea.
It's a good idea. Okay. So we were talking about the microbiome. I wanted to ask you, because there's all these companies now, doing your microbiome. What do you think of that? Is that valuable?
No. I used to be a lot more diplomatic, but
you're not starting a microbiome company either.
Okay. If I'm being very generous, I would say that these tests have limited clinical value. If I'm being very generous here, I would say that these tests have limited clinical value, and they can't really diagnose conditions or guide treatment in any meaningful way. That's the most generous take on this. The more realistic take is that these are scams. First of all, like I said before, there's not even an agreed upon definition of what a healthy microbiome is yet. We're still working on that. The more we learn about the microbiome, the more confusing it gets. We're a long way from being able to say, here is the gut microbiome you need. Here's what you're low in. Here's what you need to fix. We're not there. And to do it now is a waste of time, really. And I understand why people are going out for these. People are desperate. People have GI issues, and they don't know where else to do it. So they're willing to spend some money to do it. I think it's at best a curiosity, and you could do it for fun, but I don't recommend it, and I don't think it adds a lot right now. That could change. Maybe in 5 years, it'll be much more useful. Maybe it'll be useful at some point just for showing diversity numbers, like I said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could do a test, and then the test shows, oh, you have 10 to the 3 million different types of bacteria. And you could be like, okay, cool. Or it could be like, you're dangerously low. You need to increase, do these changes in your diet. That is the one place where I could see it being useful.
So, okay, thank you for that perspective. Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of time, if you have gut issues, that your gut microbiome is off, I would think, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you're healthy and doing well, then why are you looking into that? I do feel like there's there's this whole culture of some people just, I guess the wealth gap too causes this too. Like there's people who are doing a lot of like extra things like full body CT scans. I feel like it falls in that category of people who just want to know everything.
Right.
But I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do with the info.
What they're gaining from it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'll also admit that I have some culpability in this market as well, in that when I was in training, I got a 23andMe done. So, I mean, people could argue that that's also sort of inappropriate testing and bad too. But I felt like as a doctor, I had a lot of curiosities I kind of wanted answered. So,
yeah, I guess, that's okay, right? I mean, being curious. So I can see that. I did 23andMe back in the day too. And there is curiosity about your body, right? But the problem is that if your result shows something, we don't necessarily know what to do with it.
That's a major problem. Yeah.
And sometimes, right. Sometimes I think the CT scan example, for example, I think that's just nuts. I would never sign up for that because I'm like, there is going to be there is going to be something. And then you could end up doing, causing yourself stress, sleepless nights, and then sometimes doing unnecessary procedures to figure out what it is, or more tests. So until that's proven to be of utility, I don't think it's a good idea. So Agreed. It sounds like you're saying the same thing about microbiome testing. Maybe.
I would say even more strongly about, microbiome testing. It's not there yet. So,
I see that. Yeah. And I guess I wanted to ask you if there's a difference between, I have a very woman focused podcast. So I'm just curious if there's a difference between men and women's guts or GI tracts, or what, if any, there are.
Yeah. It's interesting. There is a little bit of structural difference. I mean, in a woman, there is more real estate that's being taken up by organs that men don't have. So uterus, ovaries, that does change a little bit of the shape of the colon. There is the traditional teaching was that the woman's colon might be a little bit longer overall than the men's colon. I don't know if that's really borne out in my experience, but doing a colonoscopy, for example, where we take a scope and we take a look through someone's colon for colon cancer screening or other reasons, it can sometimes be a little bit more challenging in a woman because of the anatomy, a little bit of the change in what you're going through. But generally, there's not that much structurally different. The mucosa looks the same. The problems are still the same. Diverticula, maybe a little bit worse in men because of their diets being a little bit lower in fiber. But there isn't that much dramatically. If you were to show me pictures of a colon, for example, I don't know if I would ever be able to tell. Okay. I mean, I would make guesses, but I doubt there's really anything scientific behind that.
Okay, interesting. That's interesting to hear that. Did you say that you're not sure if it's longer, or they said that it was longer, but it hasn't borne out?
Okay. Yeah, okay. I mean, that was what we were told, or at least what I was told. I've never seen a study that proved that, and it might be one of these old wives' tales, so I don't take it very seriously. But it is true, though, that the anatomy can be a little bit different as you go through, again, because of the organs that are there that men don't have. And also because if there's been an abdominal surgery, say for a cesarean section or some other surgeries in there, then that changes the anatomy. But that also is true for men.
Mm-hmm. I find that interesting just because, on average, there's a little less real estate with women. Yeah. And also because of the anatomy, but also their size, right? So
I will tell you, sometimes I'm doing a colonoscopy on a tiny little person and I'm like, where is she fitting all this colon? There's so much. It's so impressive.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
you can't always correlate it. It is interesting like that. I mean, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I mean,
No, go ahead,
I don't know.
finish.
I don't know if this is sort of what you're getting at also, but I mean, in terms of, are there disease processes that affect the gut that affect men more than women? The other one that might come up a lot is IBS. IBS does tend to affect women more than men. That does bear out in studies.
I mean, I believe there's just more autoimmune diseases in women, right? So that's the reason that might be the
not
association.
IBD, but IBS, not inflammatory bowel disease, but irritable bowel syndrome. IBS.
Okay.
But you are correct about autoimmune diseases. IBD, interestingly, it does affect. It doesn't have that same autoimmune, even though we think it's likely related to autoimmune. It doesn't seem to have that same effect in terms of the breakdown between men and women.
What are the other common things you see most? What other GI problems do you most commonly see?
Like people come in for in the office?
Yeah, or maybe you want to talk about like what red flags people shouldn't ignore for symptoms, and then what are like the top things you're often diagnosing that,
Well, IBS is a big one. IBS is a major thing that we deal with. I also did an extra year of liver training. So I see a lot of liver disease, changes to the liver because of alcohol or metabolic syndrome. These are things that we follow along with. Cirrhosis, thankfully, a little bit less common, especially due to hepatitis C, as it used to be in the past. Now that we have good treatments for it, but we still see plenty of it, unfortunately. Alcohol-related liver disease is a big one, and I feel like that one's been on the rise really since COVID, and I feel like the numbers are bearing that out as well. So those are common things. I also, on top of liver and gut stuff, I also do biliary tract stuff. So I go into the biliary system. Gallstones, dealing with gallstones are stuck in places they're not supposed to be. Those are issues that we see quite frequently as well. And diverticular issues that we mentioned, bleeding, that sort of thing, infections, hemorrhoids, or some downstream sequelae of having constipation. These are things that we see quite a bit. Red flags to keep in mind. And I will tell people about these red flags, but I also don't want them to totally freak out if they have it. Because still, most of the time you have these red flags, it's still probably okay. But you do need to get these evaluated. So if you see blood, you got to talk about that. It could very well be hemorrhoidal and nothing more. Kind of depends on how it's described. But when there's blood, you have to get that evaluated or talk to a doctor about that. If there is weight loss that is unexpected, you have to be concerned about that. And the human body just never wants to lose weight on its own, at least until it gets to a certain age. But like for the vast majority of patients, the body doesn't want to lose weight. So if you start losing weight and you can't explain why, you need to talk to somebody about that. Some of the more common ones you heard about in the past, like a change in the caliber of your stool, like if it goes from being thick to being thin pencil shaped, that should concern you. And you should get that looked into. I do want to reassure you, we see that plenty of times for benign reasons. And but those are the real ones: the blood, the weight loss, the change in the caliber of the stool, or a sudden change in your bowel movements, your habits, without something to explain it. So those are the ones that you should definitely get checked out.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. So what is, another thing I wanted to ask you about is what is going on with these rising rates of colon cancer? What are your thoughts on this? And, what's causing that?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, first of all. And I don't know if we totally have the answer for it. The truth of it is the numbers are increasing. I would say people talk about like the rates of early colon cancer. We're still talking about people in their 50s. So we're not talking about like 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. We're talking about like 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds, which is still in my book pretty young. But we are seeing some of the numbers rise, and they does appear to be more rectal-based cancers than further in the colon, or closer depending on your perspective, but not, it seems mostly it's rectal at this point. And this does seem to stretch across different racial and ethnic groups. The numbers are small. We're talking about modest numbers of increases, but it is going up. And that's part of the reason why our guidelines have changed. And now we're we recommend colon cancer screening starting at 45 as opposed to
Mhm.
50, which we used to say. And the short answer is that we don't really know, but there are thoughts. There's the thought that maybe the rise of obesity and diabetes leading to systemic inflammation or some metabolic reprogramming has led to some increased risk of it. I mean, that makes sense to me on some level, because also the gut microbiome can change in with diabetes and obesity. We've seen that as well. Alcohol, that could certainly be a factor, and there does, at least anecdotally, seem to be more alcohol use than before. Dietary changes like going to more sugary sweets, foods that are more ultra processed, that could potentially be a part of this as well. Red meats are also considered to be a risk, so that might be what's going on. A Western diet in general does not lend itself, like I said before, to a good healthy gut microbiome. Maybe it's something else that we're missing. Maybe it's some sort of in early life exposure or in utero exposure to something. Maybe maternal obesity, for example, has been proposed. And then I've heard other theories that make a little bit less sense to me, I think are less likely, but we should consider, which are like cell phone use, people with their pockets and their cell phones. And maybe that explains why it's lower in the colon. That one doesn't work that well for me, but the long and the short of it is we don't know. We're still trying to figure it out. These are all different potentials that we're going to tease out in the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay. Well, we have to wind it down anyway. So I guess I'm going to ask you then. Thank you for that overview. And I guess my last question is one of my last questions is just, what are your top tips for patients? Maybe top 3 things to improve your gut health.
To keep it real simple, increase fiber. Hydrate well and increase your fiber. And that's easier said than done. And you can do that through your diet, as we talked about before, but some people need a supplement. So if you are going to start a supplement, here is my recommendation.
Yeah, how much fiber is too much?
Here's the deal. I don't want people freaking out over fiber. I don't want them agonizing. Oh, how much insoluble versus soluble fiber? Where should I be getting it from? What sources? I want everyone to sort of take a breath and just know that they're probably not getting enough fiber, 1. 2, that can be changed easily. And 3, to start low and go slow. Don't go crazy with it. If you're going to start eating more fiber in your diet, start with about 5 grams more per week of fiber to give your body a little time to adjust. If you're going to start a supplement, like a powder form, which is the one I recommend a powder in water, so that way you stay hydrated. Versus the gummies. The gummies are okay. They're high in sugar, and it's mostly sugar with a little bit of probiotic a little bit of fiber in it, and that's cool. If that works for you, I'm never going to tell people to not do it. If that works for you, great. But the thing I recommend more is the water soluble fiber, and that's the one that's probably better for all the other things that we talked about. Get yourself some psyllium husk, you can put in water, and that's the most science behind that. And start low and go slow. So if you've never tried it before, don't go for the heaping 2 tablespoons. If the box says that, start with a half a teaspoon in an 8-ounce glass of water. Give yourself a couple of days to get used to that. You can titrate up slowly over time. So that's the tip I will give your listeners if they're starting fiber. Start low, go slow. Don't ambush your colon with a ton of fiber all of a sudden. It's not going to make you feel better. It's going to turn you off of fiber, and then you're going to be mad at me for saying you should have fiber. I don't want you mad at the fiber, zaddy.
Thank you so much. So is there a certain number of grams you should be aiming for, or a certain number of times a day you should be aiming for?
No, I mean, there's no upper limit to the amount of fiber you can eat, and some people eat a lot and they adjust and they do fine. You'll hear numbers from 20 to 30 per day. And that's all reasonable to me. If you're not at that, again, don't jump right to it. Give yourself a little time, adjust slowly over time and increase. And it's not a one size fits all thing. So you may do great with a little bit less. You may do great with a little bit more. So I do recommend people start low and titrate up until they get to a point where they feel good. If they're feeling better, if they're feeling regular and they're feeling better overall, then that's probably going to be good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been so valuable and fun to talk to you, finally meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been great talking to you. So tell me, do you have any next projects or announcements you'd like to make or to share? And then also, can you, share where my audience can find you?
So I have this podcast. It's called The House of Pod, and it's if you like this podcast you're listening to now, you'll probably like my podcast as well. It's very similar, just not as good. And you'll hear probably some of the same sorts of people. And we talk about medicine and science, and we try to make it relatable, and we try to make it fun. And they can find that anywhere they get podcasts. The House of Pod, you can find that pretty much anywhere. And let's see,
your socials.
I have a Twitter account. I don't use it anymore. I'm on Blue Sky, but it's not really going anywhere. So I don't know. I'm gonna stay on it. So find me on Blue Sky at Kaveh MD. The thing I'm doing now, which has been kind of fun, I've been told for like years that I have to do more video. So I started in the last month doing TikToks and Instagram. So find me at the House of Pod at TikTok or Instagram, and I'll be there trying to put out videos, and some of them might be fun.
Yes, he's great. You're very fun, very funny. I could learn from you. I've really enjoyed this chat with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So here are my closing thoughts for today. In the patriarchy, women's bodies are judged harshly, and diet culture promotes women starving themselves or making unhealthy choices to achieve a certain look. But in the Gynarchy, we prioritize our health and strength, and we don't fear food, but we enjoy it because it is nourishing and is a way of improving our health and also a way of connecting with others. So down with the patriarchy and up with the Gynarchy. Thank you so much for listening. Did you enjoy this episode of the Gynarchy Podcast? Know someone else who might enjoy this conversation? Make sure to subscribe and share the show with your friends and family. Find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and just about anywhere you find podcasts. On social media, we can be found on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok at The Gynarchy. Thank you so much for listening.